What's up, guys? This is Yasin. So I try to do this kind of segment every now and then when there's like a new format or a new ban list or something. When I haven't done this in a while, where I go over every single either banned monsters or banned spells and traps or limited cards even, and try to figure out if they can get unbanned or unlimited overall. And yeah, I felt like this was a correct timing to go for the spells and traps this time, because I think the last time we went over the monsters. So yeah, maybe my opinion actually changed on a bunch of them. It's always going to be the case, right? Because there's also like a new support that makes some of these cards kind of necessary to get unbanned if Konami really wants to push their new product. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. For example, Brilliant Fusion, if they want to push the new Gem Knight cards from Terminal World 2, it really makes sense that they unban this card. But yeah, anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep breathing. And also a huge shout out to my sponsors, Inspire TCG, Dueling Guard, and Card Brawlers. Check all them out, please, and use the coupon code Yacin656 for 5% off for Dueling Guard, and Yacin5 for 5% off for Card Brawlers. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so we got 4 categories on the cards that can be unbanned without any problem whatsoever. So yeah, you can definitely imagine a bunch of cards will be here. The cards that can be unbanned, but only if other cards get destroyed in the process. The cards that can only really be unbanned with an errata, so otherwise I can't really see them. And the cards that I'd rather not see unbanned at all, so I can't really even think of an errata for them. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first one, and I'll also watch this video until the end, don't be a bitch. Yeah, the first one is Branded Expulsion. For this card to get unbanned, I mean, actually, if anything, it can definitely be unbanned, no problem. I was actually thinking there's already Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, so it really makes sense. It makes no sense to have Albion the Sanctifier Dragon unbanned, but also Branded Expulsion banned. You can't really have one without the other. It's either you ban both or you unban both, so I really don't see why this card is still in the ban list. I think it's an incoherent decision, especially since they banned Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. But either way, there's still like Ido, there's still DD Orthros, Ra's Disciple, and some other bullshit stupid cards like that, so it ends up being the same. But yeah, no, yeah, I don't really care about Despia overall. I don't really think it's a problem right now. 6 cents, okay, yeah, I'm actually gonna get a lot of flame for that. I actually don't even think that this card is too bad. I think this card is 100% okay to unban, just because, you know, it's a trap card, it's kind of slow. Yeah, okay, sure, Labyrinth can loop it, but once you get to the point where Labyrinth can start looping trap cards, you've lost anyways, who cares? This is like the least of my worries. So I actually think, if anything, this card would be cute to have back in Yu-Gi-Oh, but nobody would realistically play it. Like, can you really imagine Malice or Raziel playing 6 cents? As like a bullshit Saki random 1-of? No, they're not gonna thrust into it. Even if the card is a 3-of, I can't really see this card being like all that good. Like, you really want to main deck this card, and then, you know, go second, draw it, and then it doesn't matter anymore because your opponent has so many negates that it's not even resolving. I don't know about that. And honestly, I think this card is copium. Even though like it can randomly be super Saki and super frustrating, it's just not gonna see play. It's just because Yu-Gi-Oh changed so much between right now and back when this card was playable in like Dragon Ruler format and stuff, where you were always a winner when you were activating this card. You were either drawing a bunch of cards or mailing a bunch of cards, so it never really mattered too much. Anyways, Vanity's Emptiness. Yeah, no, just no. I can't even think of an errata for that. The card's effect is way too simple, so yeah, it's gonna have to be stay banned. Brilliant Fusion. For this card to get unbanned, we're gonna have to ban the Gem Knight monster that burns. And I think that can happen for sure, because in the actual Gem Knight deck, well, I mean the new one, the OCG is playing, they don't really try to FTK, they just make a big board. And Brilliant Fusion, even though it's a great card, I think it's kind of like a fair-ish card if you're not trying to FTK. It's really good, it's generically playable, but I do believe that their own deck should at the very least be able to play their own cards. So it's kind of unfair that just because the card was generically abusable, that, you know, the deck itself can't even play one of their favorite cards. And also, I've heard that this card is absolutely correct in the OCG because they do have one copy of this card, and it's not being abused generically. So I think we can probably have this in the TCG, and it should be fine as a 1-of if, again, we put a check on the FTK. Confiscation, yeah, no, this card is also way too simple. It can't get unbanned. Heavy Storm, yeah, I'm also gonna get roasted in the comment section, but I have no problem unbanning Heavy Storm in a world where Duster is just usually better. Usually, sometimes Heavy Storm can be a little better. But Yaxine is so broken and Unchained, shut up. Oh my god, I've heard this argument so many times and it's so annoying. My god. Yeah, no. Anyways, Red Reboot. Look, I don't like this card, but honestly, it can kind of get unbanned. I don't like it though. I really don't want it to get unbanned. But to be fair, out of every card that is banned, it's at the very least one of the cards that is... It's sacky, and it's frustrating to play against, but at the very least you can argue that it doesn't really make you insta-win. Like, you draw the card, you don't just kill your opponent on the spot. So there's kind of like a limit to the amount of BS things that you can do, and technically if you're really good at the game, you can still play around this card when you're playing a trap deck. Like, you can still diversify and play some spell cards, you can play like some runic cards in your labyrinth deck, so that you can still have some interruptions when you're under the restriction of no trap cards with Red Reboot. So yeah, it's unfair, but it's still fair in a way. Summon limit, nah, we recently banned this card. Recently, kind of, but yeah, no, it definitely can't come back. Return from the different dimension, it's way too slow for today's standards. It's not like Dimension Fusion, so I actually think this card is completely fine. Appointer of the Red Lotus, I also can't really think of an errata for this one. That's the issue. Like, how are you errataing a card that already kind of got an errata, or rather like an effect clarification? And also the OCG has 3 copies and they don't play it, so am I putting it here or here? I don't even know. Honestly, I'm probably gonna have to keep it there just because in the TCG, I already know that if we unban this card, it's gonna be really problematic. It's gonna be the one thrust target or the one card that people are gonna trap trick into or just physically hard draw to ruin your life. They're gonna appoint you around standby phase. Oh, you got board breakers? Nah, not today. You got a hand trap? So sorry, you got one engine card. Take away that thing from my hand, from your hand, and then you can't play it. Then on my next turn, I have knowledge on your hand and I can kill you. I really don't like this. This card is way too powerful. So honestly, I think it can stay here. Soul Charge. This one is a card that can get errataed. You would have to like negate the effect of every monster that you summon. You would have to make it so that you can only summon like one more time after it or something like that. Maybe double the life point payment so that you can summon less monsters. There's infinite interesting ways of errataing this card. Unfortunately, it would kind of destroy the integrity of the card because like in the anime, this card made you pay 500 life points, but at the same time in the anime you had 4,000 life points, so it makes sense that you pay 1,000 for each when you got 8,000 life points. And also Raphael lost the game on his own soul charge after using it, so we never knew if like you couldn't conduct your battle phase or not. Kaiba did mention that the monsters that were summoned off of soul charge cannot attack, during the turn they're summoned. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have no battle phase, but at the same time, like Yu-Gi-Oh, like anime terms, maybe like there's no extra deck that there's no Xyz or synchro plays or link plays, so maybe it kind of translates to being the same. You can argue that it's not like Card of Demise where, the card that got drastically worse. This card basically retained the exact same effect. So if you errata this card, it would be a little unfortunate for the anime fans out there, and it would be unfortunate for me because Soul Charge is one of my favorite cards. Obviously, I love Raphael. I love the fact that he played some of the most broken cards out there, and also like his games against the 10 more interesting. But unfortunately, this card, I can't really see it being unbanned without an errata because the card is really, really cracked. Like a little too good, unfortunately. Card of Safe Return can absolutely be unbanned with a small errata, or like a hard once per turn errata, but that would make it complete garbage, like literally unplayable. It would make it on the same level as like Supply Squad. But yeah, it can definitely be unbanned for sure. Imperial Order, we already errataed this card, it wasn't enough, so yeah, there's no more errata that can work. This card is doomed now. It's literally destined to remain on the ban list for eternity. It is not a healthy card, it is not fair, it is extremely infuriating to play against. It is arguably worse than any of the cards here. Actually, no, never mind, Confiscation is worse. Yeah, no, I think this might be worse. Yeah, just because you look at your opponent's hand and you make them lose a card. Yeah, that's a little too much, but Imperial Order is also BS, so yeah. Butterfly Dagger Alma can be a hard once per turn as well, and it wouldn't make it fair. Low-key, the card sucks. I actually think it can be unbanned without any issues whatsoever. Again, can you think of like any competitive deck that would want to abuse this card? The only decks that could maybe do something with Dagger Alma would be the bullshit FTK deck that plays like 25 bricks, and those decks can already FTK without Elma. So it really doesn't matter whether this card exists or not. It just adds an option for the already existing decks that you will never face anyways because they're too busy losing to themselves or losing going second. So again, as long as those cards that I'm reviewing cannot be played in actual real decks and cannot be, you can't encounter them in real life setting, I think they're fine to unban for the most part. Okay, so Premature Barrel is very interesting because it is an equip spell just like Dagger Alma, which is one of the reasons why it's banned, just because, it can keep looping it with I don't know, I was gonna say like Zephyros the Elite, that doesn't really count because it's once per turn, but what once per duel, that's way worse. Premature Barrel is not once per turn, but if we make it once per turn, then it defeats the purpose of being abusable by cards that can bounce it back to the hand. So honestly, I think this card will be worse than Monster Reborn if we unban it with an errata. To be fair, it does need an errata because realistically the card is supposed to be worse than Monster Reborn. So I do think that this is one of the few cards where unfortunately it will have to have an errata for it to exist. Graceful Charity, no way to errata this card, the effect is way too simple. Last turn, this card absolutely needs an errata just so that there's no draws, and I mean actually no, yeah, this card would actually suck with an errata. But, I mean, by the way, the positioning doesn't matter. I'm really just playing and clicking on buttons and dragging the cursor for absolutely no good reason, just because I'm trigger happy and I want to do things. Look at this. But yeah, no, last turn is, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really care. I don't really have a strong opinion on this card. I've never really had to face this card in real life, but I do know that in Dinomorphia, this card is Cancer. So yeah, anyways, Mass Driver. This card is garbage. Even, like, obviously you can unban it with an errata to make it once per turn, but even without the errata, there's already other cards that are similar, like Cannon Soldier. And again, when is the last time you saw a Cannon Soldier FTK? I mean, the last time for me was like with the Morphotronic thing, and that thing, I mean, that deck literally never lasted for nothing, actually. It was not really seeing play at big events, so I really don't care if those kinds of bad FTK decks exist. I'm not affected by them. And you shouldn't feel affected by them either, because they are a myth, like I said. Kaiser Coliseum is banned in the OCG, and again, the effect is a little too simple, so I can't really imagine errata. The only way it can get unbanned with an errata is if it makes it so that if you control no monsters... Oh, actually, no, never mind. You do have to control a monster for the card anyways. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, no, the card is... it can stay there. Mirage of Nightmare. Okay, actually, this is where I'm gonna have to change my mind on it. I used to say this card is completely fine to unban, but then people said, oh yeah, but you can draw into hand traps and then still like destroy your own Mirage of Nightmare, or you don't even have to destroy your Mirage of Nightmare, you can just use the hand traps on your opponent's turn. Maybe there is a world in which this has merit, and also when you play Razor Detonator, you can also destroy your own Mirage of Nightmare, so that's kind of problematic. Or if you're playing Malice, you can banish your own Mirage of Nightmare after comboing and you're drawing way too many cards. So yeah, if you're drawing to hand traps, this can definitely be a problem because you're emptying out your hand anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're discarding cards. Yeah, okay. I think Mirage of Nightmare has to stay there. Unfortunately, unless it gets like the same treatment as Future Fusion, where your draws are delayed one turn and also the drawback is delayed one turn. That way the card does nothing for a full turn. Therefore, it could be there. I don't know. It could be a thing. Giant Shrunade, low-key, this card, it's never gonna really be broken in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there can be like a small errata to make it so that if you use this card, you can't use spells and traps that you bounce back to your hand, but then how can you identify which ones were bounced back? They have like a different identity, so it doesn't really make sense. The reason why this card was banned was because you could bounce back cards like Premature Barrel and then use them again, and like Snatch Steal and stuff like that, so you could keep abusing continuous spells or equip spells and stuff like that, or field spells even. Again, in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, this is not really the case. Usually this card will just end up being another Duster or Lightning Storm or Feather or a Heavy Storm. And I think that's actually kind of fair, especially against like Razor. If you bounce back like the Razor Cross, the you know, their set imperms and stuff like that, it actually ends up being worse than Duster if anything. So I think I'm gonna place it here, but if you want to destroy me in the comment section and disagree with me, I am absolutely open to any criticism on this one. I'm not really I don't really feel super strongly about it either. Almost all of my decisions are like on a whim. It's really just my instinct. I haven't really put too much thought into them, but yeah, whatever. This is the Forceful Sentry. To be fair, I actually kind of forgot the difference between Confiscation and the Forceful Sentry. I think Confiscation makes your opponent discard a card, and this one, it's like, it shuffles back into the deck. So this is better than Confiscation, but either way, both are broken, so who cares? Delinquent Duel. I like to say that this card is kind of better than both of these cards just because you remove 2 cards, but at the same time you get no hand knowledge, and also your opponent gets a little bit more freedom in which second card he wants to discard. So you can argue that this is actually worse, but sometimes it's actually better because if you remove 2 hand traps, then it is what it is, right? If your opponent has like 5 good cards, that's still 2 good cards less, whereas with these cards, it's like only 1 good card less in the hand, so yeah, it's like not... Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I still think this card is a little too good when you're going first. And going first, Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks nowadays are already so broken that I don't really think they need like an extra boost of BS cards like, you know, talent, cross out and stuff like that. They already make you feel like you're hand looping yourself. So I am not really looking forward to having more hand loop cards running around in the game. I'd really rather not. Metamorphosis. Okay, for this card to get unbanned, we would have to start destroying cards like Last Warrior from Another Planet and the Cherry Exterio, or at least like errata them. But I don't even think that this card necessarily needs an errata, because we have some other cards that have extremely similar effects like Duality, Shadows Light, Metamorphosis, and those cards don't really see that much play. Not to say that they're bad, because they're great, and I think they have crazy potential, but Metamorphosis, I think we can at least try it as a one-of, and it would be fun to play with. Honestly, I would love to see one Metamorphosis in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm totally not biased as a Cyber Dragon player who's just trying to tribute Cyber Dragon to Summon Rampage. No. Where did you get that from? But yeah, no, seriously, Metamorphosis would be absolutely sick. Please unban it, Konami, just to test the waters as a one-of. And if it does nothing, then we can unban it as a three-of. But I wouldn't necessarily place it in the unban no problem section, because this one theoretically could be a problem. Self-destruct button is in the exact same boat as last turn, where it just causes issues for the game, so yeah, I don't know. Again, there's not much to say when a card can just create draws. Like, this is exactly the opposite of what Konami is trying to do. Konami is doing their absolute best to avoid the draws in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this card just says, you know what? No, screw that. We're gonna make the game even worse. We're gonna allow people to, like, and not necessarily intentional draw. No, of course not, but you can do some really filthy and not really nice things with self-destruct button. This card is frustrating, and it doesn't really reward fair play in Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. So this is like, if anything, like the scum of the game. It just shouldn't exist. But with an errata, it would just become unplayable. So yeah, it's between this section and this section. Same thing with last turn. They're really, like I said, in the exact same position. Pot of Greed. The card literally has 3 words on it. Draw 2 cards. How can you put an errata on this? Seriously. By making it the next Pot of Prosperity, where you can't search for the rest of the turn, you can't draw. No, sorry, you can't draw for the rest of the turn. That would be fine, or like draw other cards the turn you activate Pot of Greed. Honestly, if that happens, it might actually be a really nice one-of. That could be cool, because Pot of Prosperity, excavating 6 cards and getting 1 high-quality card, you know, it's, you can argue that sometimes it's better than Pot of Greed just drawing 2 random cards. So, you guys let me know how you would feel about it, but again, giving extra consistency to decks that are, I think, already very consistent and could FTK you or destroy you even more, I don't know if this is if this is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Really needs right now. So I think Pot of Greed, unfortunately, even though it's a really cool card and I would love to see it back one day, today is not the day for the card. Cold Wave, no, just no, that one. Smoke Grenade. Yeah, I also can't really think of a errata, to be completely honest with you, so yeah, we would have to like destroy a bunch of decks in general, like anything that can easily equip, get access to equip spells, because when we saw this card being played in Infernoble and Dragon Link, it was not fun at all. Troubleshoot is very similar to a Pointer of the Red Lotus, but you can actually kind of argue that it's a little worse because sometimes it's dead, because your opponent has less than 4 cards in hand because you got hand trapped like 3 times on turn 1. Okay, is that really realistic? Not really. But with somewhat of an errata, this card could be playable, right? If it gets like errata so that your opponent now has to have 6 cards in hand, so that if you get a hand trapped to once, then this card becomes dead. Or if your opponent goes draw phase priority, activate a card, then he has 1 less card in his hand, and then Troubleshoot becomes dead. This could be a possibility to like errata the card to make it more fair, so that there is an actual way of interacting with the card before it gets to hurt you. Maybe, for sure. Painful Choice, this is the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't really want to errata it either, because otherwise it would just destroy the purpose of the existence of this card, right? Ultimate Offering, literally the shittiest card in the ban list, potentially. Hold on a second. You can argue Dagger Elma is garbage as well, but like this, oh my god. It could go back to 3 and not a single deck would play it. But yeah, X-Sign, you're forgetting about Gadget. Yo, click X on this video, I swear to god. Otherwise, I'm actually gonna slap the shit out of you. Anyways, Mystic Mine. Okay, yeah, no, just no. Original Sinfospo Snake Eye. This card got banned recently, so not even gonna talk about it. Last Whale would need one heck of an errata. You would need to only be able to use it on main phase 2 after one of your monsters died by battle, because That was like the original way of playing Last Whale back in the days, and it kind of turned it to something a little more degenerate than that when we started getting like Synchro Season Link Play. I mean, yeah, this card never coexisted with Link Plays, but I think it coexisted with like the debut of Synchros or something like that. I forgot when this card got banned exactly, but yeah, no, just, this card would be really freaking broken in 2025. I can guarantee you that. So yeah, if we can only use this card in main phase 2 when we crash, that's a different story for another day, you know what I'm saying? Royal Oppression can be used by both players, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good card, because usually the player going first and setting up this card has all the tempo and controls, you know, the game state of the game. So I don't really think that this card is welcome in an environment where the player that goes first already has a massive advantage. So again, like, what kind of errata can we give this card? I have no freaking clue. Like I said, I didn't really put too much thought into it. But if we can make it so that the player who owns the card can only use it once while it is on the field, and the player who doesn't own the card can use it infinite times, that could be a possibility. I don't know. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear about them in the comment section. And finally, we have Dimension Fusion, which is one of the most powerful cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! By a significant margin. Technically, it actually has a worse effect. I mean, is it a worse effect than Return from the Different Dimension? I mean, you pay 2k, you revive back all the monsters, but this is a spell, and this is a trap. You see the difference between a card being slow and a card being fast? How even when the effect is like slightly worse, it doesn't matter, because it still ends up being a significantly better card, because now you can use it on, like, while you're comboing off on turn 1, whereas this, not really. And imagine this in like Ritual Beast or something. Holy shit. Oh my god, this would be broken. And I'm saying Ritual Beast, but like Shifter decks abusing the crap out of this. Haha, my god. You know what? I want to see the world burn. I really want to see the world burn. This video is going to get so many dislikes. I'm doing this just to troll people, but I clearly don't believe that Dimension Fusion can be unbanned with no problem. But the people who skip all the way until the end, they're going to see this, they're going to be super confused, and they're going to ask themselves a lot of questions. And they're also going to ask me questions in the comment section that will, with pleasure, ignore, because it just proves that you haven't watched the video. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about these banned spells and traps in the comment section. Do you think they deserve to see the light of day once in their lifetime, or do you think they should all rot in hell? Especially Mystic Mine, I hate you so much. But even though this card's low-key kind of getting fair, I still hate this card so much, but low-key right now, if it gets unbanned, I think it's actually garbage. Like, Detonator just pops, and then Malice just banishes this card super easy. It's actually not a good card at all. But again, I'm very biased, so realistically, this card can get unbanned, no problem. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.